Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah here. We're holding in Mishnah Berurah Chelik Vav. We'll be learning today Mirz Hashem, Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. We're continuing to learn Hilchos Chalamayid, and we begin today on the top of Yud Gimel Amud Aleph with a new Siman, Siman Taf Kuf Mem Aleph, Dine Ariga B'Chayil Hamayid, the halachas that govern weaving or sewing on Chalamayid, Ubai He Seifim, and we have here 5 Seifim. Says the Mechaber in Sif Aleph, Mutar lasois mitzudais dagim me'arava. You are allowed to weave fish nets out of willow branches. Shehu ma'aseh hedyet. The reason you're allowed to do this is because this is considered a ma'aseh hedyet. To make these, I guess it's kind of like a wicker type of a net. You're using these willow branches to do this. This is only a ma'aseh hedyet. Avaloi ha'arugim mechutim. But you cannot weave such a net out of threads, shehu maise uman, that is fine work, and that is already elevated to the level of a maise uman, which is aser. Let's take a look here in the Mishnah Berurah Chelik Aleph. Mutar lasois, so of course, the first thing that the Chavetz Chaim reminds us is, v'dafka l'tzarech hamayid. You're only allowed to do this if it's a tzarech hamayid. If you are weaving is a malacha, ariga is a malacha, so you're only allowed to do this, you have only a heter to do this if there is some kind of a tzarech hamayid. If it's a tzarech hamayid, then you're allowed to do the malacha, but you're only allowed to do a maaseh hedyet. He's cutting bays, maaseh hedyet. Now, the Chavetz Chaim is faced with a question over here. At face value, you might wonder, why is weaving a net to catch fish only mutter l'tzarech hamayid as a maaseh hedyet? Why don't we say that it's machshirei oichel nefesh? I'm doing something that will allow me to catch fish that I'm going to eat. So it's not oichel nefesh. It's not like cooking where I'm actually preparing the food. But why isn't it at least machshirei oichel nefesh? And we learned yesterday that even malacha that's being done l'tzarech machshirei oichel nefesh on Chalamayid is allowed to be done even as a maaseh uman. So why is this only mutter as a maaseh hedyet? That's the question that the Chavetz Chaim is addressing here in Ois Cotton Bays. Says the Chavetz Chaim, V'lai hevi b'chlal machshirei oichel nefesh. Weaving this net is not considered machshirei oichel nefesh, k'may tanur, like the building of an oven that we learned about yesterday, v'sakin, or the manufacture of a knife, the mutter sham afilu maaseh uman, which yesterday we said are mutter even if you're doing a maaseh uman because it's tzarech machshirei oichel nefesh. Says the Chavetz Chaim that a net to catch fish is not machshirei oichel nefesh. Why? Mishum daloi mikre machshirin. We only call something machshirei oichel nefesh ela davar hamachshiroi la'achila. It has to be something that actually prepares the food for eating. Ki hatanur al yedei ha'afiyah, like the oven which bakes the bread or it cooks the food, so it's actually preparing the food for eating. V'sakin al yedei hashchita, or a knife that prepares the food for eating by virtue of, let's say, doing shchita, of slaughtering the animal, which allows you to eat it. Mashe ein kein b'reshasos. But a net is not that way. The net doesn't prepare the fish for eating. The net catches the fish. Now you have the fish. Now you could take the fish and you could prepare it for eating. But the net doesn't help prepare the fish for eating. All it does is catch the fish so that you have the fish available to you. And it's interesting, in Dirshu footnote number 1, they bring down a very nice example of this. It says over here in the footnote, V'chein le'inyan chafiras bar mayim b'maaseh uman l'tzarech yochid. The same halacha applies to somebody who wants to dig a well. Somebody is digging either a well or a cistern to keep water in, and he has to do this on the level of a maaseh uman. And he's doing it not for the tzibur, he's not doing it for public use, he's doing it only for his own personal use. Kasav HaShulchan Aruch l'kaman, the Shulchan Aruch is going to write later in Siman Tavkuf Mem Dalet Siv Beis, she'ein lasois kain, you're not allowed to do this on Chalamayid, afilu im ein lai mayim lishtais ki im bedaychik, even if the only other water source that he has is going to be difficult for him. He's still not allowed to dig a well with a maaseh uman on Chalamayid. V'atam l'chayra k'mavur kan. And the reasoning would seem to be the same as the rationale given by the Chavetz Chaim over here. Shekeven sha'bar einenu machshir es hamayim la'achila. The bar, the pit, the cistern that you're digging to hold the water in, that's not preparing the water for drinking. Elohu oisef es hamayim. All it's doing is it's a means to gather the water, so that it should be easy for somebody to draw water from it and drink. So harehu kumitsuda. This is the same as a net. So again, let's analyze the different cases over here. We have something like the manufacture of an oven. An oven is considered machshirei oichel nefesh, because when you manufacture the oven, you're not preparing food, so it's not oichel nefesh, but you're manufacturing an oven, and the oven prepares the food. So that's machshirei oichel nefesh. When you manufacture a knife, you're not doing malacha to food, it's not tzarich oichel nefesh, but it's machshirei oichel nefesh, because you manufacture a knife, and then you take that knife and you cut the food or you slaughter the animal. So that's allowing you to use the food. When you go ahead and you weave a net and then you catch fish, the net is not preparing the fish for eating. All the net is doing is catching the fish. Now you have the fish. Now you got to go to the next step. Now, if you want to manufacture a frying pan to go sear the fish in, that would be machshirei oichel nefesh. But the net is not machshirei oichel nefesh. And for that reason, the only malacha that you're allowed to do to make the net is a ma'aseh hedyot. A ma'aseh hedyot you're allowed to do because it is a tzarech hamoyed. I have a tzarech hamoyed. I need a net to catch fish so that I can eat fish on Yom Tov. So it is a tzarech hamoyed, but only something that's mutter as a ma'aseh hedyot, because it's not tzarech machshirei oichel nefesh. So this is a very yesodistic Mishnah Berurah that gives me over here. It sets the bar for what's considered oichel nefesh, what's considered machshirei oichel nefesh, and what's considered just a tzarech hamoyed ba'alma, which is only mutter a ma'aseh hedyot. Okay, now let's go to the Ramah, second line in the Shulchan Aruch. Hagah, very interesting Ramah. Umutter lesaken hapsilois lenerois b'chol hamoyed. You're allowed to manufacture wicks for your lamps on Chol hamoyed, the ma'aseh hedyot, because this is considered a ma'aseh hedyot. When you make a wick, usually you're twisting. You're doing the malacha of tviyah, of spinning and twisting. So that's a malacha gemura. If you do that on Shabbos, it's an issa d'oraisa. But you're allowed to make wicks on Chol hamoyed. Why? Because the Ramah says this is a ma'aseh hedyot. Okay, let's take a look here in the Mishnah Berurah's Cotton Gimel. L'saken apsilois, you're allowed to make the wicks l'tzarech moyed. Obviously, you're only allowed to do this if it's a tzarech hamoyed. You're not allowed to sit down and make wicks on Chol hamoyed sukkos, so to make your wicks for Hanukkah. That's not a tzarech hamoyed at all. So it's a malacha. You're not allowed to do it if it's not l'tzarech hamoyed. But if you need wicks to light up your dining room, so then it's a tzarech hamoyed, but you're only allowed to do a ma'aseh hedyot. You're not allowed to do a ma'aseh uman. But the Chavetz Chaim says, v'yeshem achmirim bazeh, there are those opinions, the Eliyah Rabbah most notably, the Eliyah Rabbah, the Pri Megadim, that are machmir, they rule stringently, and they say that you're not allowed to make the wicks on Chol hamoyed. And apparently the reason is, I saw this, right? I see this in the, I'm not sure. But apparently these shitas hold that making a wick is considered a ma'aseh uman. That's not considered a ma'aseh hedyot, it's considered a ma'aseh uman, and therefore they disagree with the Ramah here that says it's a ma'aseh hedyot, they hold it's a ma'aseh uman. Va'af ligdol mitzemer gefen, even to go make a wick out of cotton. Now when you make a wick out of cotton, it's not the same as making a wick out of other fabrics. Usually when you make a wick, you take little strands and you twist them together. That's the malacha of tviyah, of spinning and twisting. But with cotton, that's not what you do. Cotton, you pull out a bunch of fibers and you just roll it together with your hand. There's no malacha of tviyah involved. However, says the Chavetz Chaim, va'af ligdol mitzemer gefen delav shazerhu, even to make a wick out of cotton where you don't have this malacha of spinning, gam ken yesh li zoher lasois mikoidem. Even this is something that, according to the Machmirim, you would have to do this before Yom Tov. Now, I think the simple explanation of this is, yes, it's true that you don't have the malacha of spinning or twisting, but you still have the malacha of makeh b'patish. It still is a malacha. You're making a keli, so that's makeh b'patish. So you still have malacha, and according to the opinions that say that somehow to make a wick is a ma'aseh uman, so then this would be aser out of cotton as well. V'ayin b'chai yodam, the Chavetz Chaim says, take a look at the Chai Yodam Shekasav, who writes, it would be proper to make your wicks before Yom Tov. However, b'di'eved, you can make the wicks out of cotton. And I think from looking in the words of the Chai Yodam, I think what the Chai Yodam holds is that to make a wick out of cotton is really only a ma'aseh hedyot. To make a wick out of other fabrics where you're twisting, that's a ma'aseh uman, so that he doesn't want to be matir at all. To make a wick out of cotton is only ma'aseh hedyot, so that he would be matir b'di'eved. Why is he only matir at b'di'eved if it's a ma'aseh hedyot? I think the reason he's only matir at b'di'eved is because he says, wait a second, this is a malacha that you could have done on Erev Yom Tov. So if it's something that you could have done on Erev Yom Tov, so then any malacha you're supposed to do on Erev Yom Tov if you could do it before Yom Tov. So therefore the Chai Yodam says the best thing would be go ahead and make your wicks for Yom Tov before Yom Tov. Don't be mechaven malachta l'mayid. Don't push off malacha to do it on Chalamayid for no reason. Better do it before. If you didn't do it before, so then b'di'eved you could go ahead and make wicks, but only make wicks out of cotton because that's a ma'aseh hedyot. Don't make it out of anything else, which would be a ma'aseh uman, which would be aser. V'chein b'Birkei Yosef kasav da'aminig pashat lahatir. Birkei Yosef also writes that the minig is to be matir, like the Ramah, to make wicks. Oid kasav Chai Yodam, the Chai Yodam also writes, the l'kulei alma, everybody would agree that aser lasois neiros shel chelev upshita shel shava. You certainly cannot make candles out of fat or out of wax. Deka gankein meruach. With that sort of work, you're even involving another malacha. Now you're also involving the malacha of meruach, of smoothing something out. You're taking a thick, I'm trying to think of the right word, like a creamy substance, and you're smoothing it into a candle shape. That's an additional malacha of meruach. The chemeduma shenaygin heter l'tzarech mayid. However, l'tzarech mayid, the Chai Yodam says they were noig heter ad kan l'shoynai. Uber prima gadam mashma diyesh lizar bazer. The prima gadam is mashma that you should be machmir and you should not do this on Chalamayid. Now, there is a very, very interesting Dirshu footnote here. Dirshu footnote number 2, which speaks to something that we spoke about yesterday. And what this footnote addresses is the Ramah said that you're allowed to make wicks on Chalamayid. Why? Because it's only a ma'aseh hedyot. And everything we spoke about in this Mishnah Berurah, we said that those opinions that are machmir, they hold that it's a ma'aseh, possibly a ma'aseh uman. So certainly nobody wants to be matir a ma'aseh uman, not even the Ramah. The Ramah is only being matir a ma'aseh hedyot. But wait a second, let's analyze this for a second. Why can't we be matir even a ma'aseh uman? L'chara, if you need the wick in order to light up the house, we spoke yesterday, what happens if there's a blackout? What happens if the electricity in your house goes out? And I told you yesterday that I was wondering what the halacha would be. What happens if all of your electricity goes out and you need to hire an electrician to do a ma'aseh uman to fix it? Do we say like the Ritva that ein adam dar b'dira srucha, and therefore it's considered a tzarech adam, a tzarech haguf, ein adam dar b'dira srucha, and therefore you could even do a ma'aseh uman? Or maybe no, maybe it's not really a tzarech haguf, it's not a physical discomfort, the lack of light, and therefore maybe only a ma'aseh hedyot is mutter. Well, this Dirshu footnote over here addresses this very question. Take a look at Dirshu footnote number 2. It says over here, V'atam shehutar rak ma'aseh hedyot. What's the reason that the Ramah is only being matir making wicks if it's a Maaseh Hedyot? Av sheha'or hu tzarech ha'adam, or l'shem kach hutar af Maaseh uman, l'chara light is a tzarech adam. Like I said yesterday, l'chara the light is a tzarech adam, it's a tzarech haguf, and therefore it should be mutter even to do a Maaseh uman. So Bir Agayin Reb Nissen Karelitz Zechat Tzadik Levracha Shekevan Shebederach Klal Efshir Leheyer Es Abayis Al Yidei Maaseh Hedyot Lo Yetiru Maaseh Uman. Reb Nissen Karelitz was bothered by this. Reb Nissen Karelitz Zechat Tzadik Levracha wondered. He said, L'chayra, this should be mutter even as a Maaseh Uman, to provide light in the house. So the conclusion that he draws is that the reason the Ramah is only matter a Maaseh Hedyot, not a Maaseh Uman, is because typically speaking, if you need some kind of wick to burn in order to provide light, you don't have to go ahead and do a Maaseh Uman and make a beautiful wick. You could take some kind of piece of fabric that will draw oil up and stick it in the lamp and light it. And it will burn. It might not give you the most beautiful flame, but we're not looking for Hidur Mitzvah here of Neres Chanukah. We're just looking for something to light the house. So therefore, says Reb Nissen Karelitz, the basis of the Ramah is, if you don't need to do a Maaseh Uman, if all you need to do is a Maaseh Hedyot, why should I be matir a Maaseh Uman? Achein, continues the footnote here, if you can't accomplish lighting the house through a Maaseh Hedyot, so you're going to have to sit in the dark, then mutar l'saknoi b'maaseh uman. Then you could even do a Maaseh Uman. V'hoisif, and Reb Nissen Karelitz adds, shemisham kach, for this reason, b'yameinu sha'ta'oreh hi al yedei chashmal, nowadays when our light is using electricity, v'tikunoi b'derech klal hu Maaseh Uman, and generally speaking, in order to repair your electricity, you need a Maaseh Uman. You have to hire an electrician, a professional. Mutar l'saknoi b'mayid. You're allowed to do this on Chol HaMoed. So here we have an answer. Here we have a contemporary pasuk that answers the question that I said yesterday. If your electricity goes out, you can hire an electrician and you can have your electricity fixed on Chol HaMoed, even with a Maaseh Uman. V'agayin, Knyeskis, the Stipler Gayin, Zechat Tzadik Levracha, Hiter Lahachlev. I don't know exactly what this is talking about, so I'm not going to continue the footnote over here. Okay, let's go weiter. Now we go to Sif Beis. Misargin. What's Misargin? Says the Ramah Pirish. The explanation of this is Hu ke'ein ha'ariga. This is like weaving. Misargin is a type of weaving. Ela shabasriga, the type of weaving that we call sriga. Yesh revach ma bin chut lechut. This is an open type of weaving where you're doing a weave, but it's loose. You see the boxes over there. It's open. It's an open weave. It's a loose weave. That's what this word misargin is used for. So misargin, the Mechaber says, misargin hamitos. You could make a loose weave out of the straps that were used to support a mattress. The beds that they had in the times of the Mishnah, the Gemara, the Rishonim, they had a frame, and then they would line up in the frame, they would have straps that they would make a loose weave out of, and that's what would support your mattress. So the Mechaber says, Mesargin amitos, you could do this weaving for the bed, even though this is a malacha of oireg. If you do this on Shabbos, it's an Issa Daraisa. So this is a malacha. But l'tzarech hamoyed, you could do this because it's a Maaseh Hedyot. A loose weave like that is only a Maaseh Hedyot. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut and daled, misargin, pirish, sha'isen by chavalim, that would take straps, shesi ve'erev, in a crisscross pattern, lishkav ba b'moyed, in order to make a bed to lay on Yom Tov. V'chol shekein kishehem b'mita mikvar, and certainly, if these straps were already on the bed, ela shenasu refuyim, but they got loose, so they're not, the straps have all shifted, and now you have big gaps where there's no straps to support the mattress. So certainly, if they're already woven, the mutter lemaschan, certainly you're allowed to pull them taut and arrange everything in the proper way on Chol HaMoed if it's being done with Tzarech HaMoed. This is only a Maaseh Hedyot, it's not a Maaseh Uman. V'dafka l'Tzarech HaMoed, but of course, you're only allowed to do this l'Tzarech HaMoed. The lav hachi, Avzeh aser. If you're not doing it l'tzarech hamayid, then even the mesicha, even the pulling it taut and straightening it, says the Eliyah Rabbah, even that would be aser. And I assume the reason that would be aser is because of tircha. It can't be aser because of malacha. There is no malacha involved in the mesicha. In just pulling it taut and straightening it out, you're not doing any malacha. It's already woven. So why would it be aser if you're not doing it l'tzarech hamayid? Only because of tercha. Why are you going around picking up your mattresses and fixing your bed frames on chalamayid? It's inappropriate activity. Continues the Mishnah Berurah, and even what we're being matir over here, to be mesargin the mita, this is only something that should be done l'tzarech hamayid, and it can't be shekiven malachta l'mayid. This is not something that should be left for being done on chalamayid. If you could do it before the mayid, do it before the mayid. Don't intentionally leave this to be done during chalamayid because it is a malacha, and you're not allowed to be mechaven malachta l'mayid. Now let's go back to the Shulchan Aruch, right by the Ois Cut and Hay for the Mishnah Berurah, 4 lines down in the Shulchan Aruch, in the middle. So you're allowed to do this misargin, you're allowed to do this loose weave of the straps. Aval, however, ein mafshilin chavalim batchila. What you're not allowed to do is, you're not allowed to go ahead and weave and braid the straps. Or I've seen some Mefarshim say it means to make these straps, so these ropes that you use to support the mattress, you have to somehow braid them together to make long ones. That you can't do. And the Aruch HaShulchan says the reason you can't do that, I assumed that the reason you can't do that is because it was a Maaseh Uman. But the Aruch HaShulchan says the reason you can't do it is because that's already a Tircha Yisera. That might make more sense than what I thought originally, that it's a Maaseh Uman, because l'chara, I'm just thinking now out loud, it can't be that it would be aser al Maaseh Uman, because l'chara this is a tzarech adam, this is a tzarech haguf, it's a bed to lay on. So l'chara even a Maaseh Uman should be mutter. So the reason that mafshilin chavalim batchila is aser, I guess, is because it's a tircha yisera. And tircha yisera, that I guess we're not going to be matir. We're matir tircha yisera for oichel nefesh. We are matir tircha yisera for oichel nefesh, and we saw that we're matir tircha yisera even for machshirei oichel nefesh. We had a raya, right? We had a raya the other day that we're matir tircha yisera even for machshirei oichel nefesh. Right, when we said you're allowed to make the water canal for the water-driven mill. So would you be matir tircha yisera for something which is a tzarech haguf? Well, in any case, the Aruch HaShulchan says that this mafshilin chavalim batchila is also because of tircha yisera. I want to take a look into that a little bit more. Okay, let's take a look at Mishnah Berurah's Cut and Hay. Aval ein mafshilin. Ritzayna Loimar, what the Mechaber wants to say over here is, She'ein goydlin hachavolin mishum zeh. You're not allowed to make the straps for this purpose. V'yesh ben ha'poiskim shemachmirim, shaloi lahatilam bamita b'mayid, afilo he megudalim mikvar. Says the Mishnah Berurah here, he brings this down from the Eliyah Rabbah, that you're not allowed to insert these straps into the bed frame for the first time. And this that we're matir to make the weave, is either when these straps had already been installed in the bed frame and just they came out, now you're replacing them, or the Sharetzion suggests that they're already in on one side, and now you're weaving the straps and inserting them into the other side of the frame. But to put them into the frame for the first time would be aser. I just want to see if they bring down... Sorry, just somehow this didn't occur to me when I prepared the shir. Tirchi Yisera. Yeah, this question of Tirchi Yisera, we've had this already a few times. There's a lot of open questions of when exactly we're makbid on Tirchi Yisera when it comes to Tzarchei Aguf and when we're not. I've already seen several times since the beginning where it's a little hard to pinpoint exactly when we're matir Tirchi Yisera and when we're makbid on Tirchi Yisera. So we had the Amas Hamayim, the water canal for the mill. Over there we were matir it even though it's a Tirchi Yisera. In other places we said that Tirchi Yisera is aser. Tried to think of a good example where a Tirchi Yisera was aser even though, let's see, by the produce, by the garden, by the vegetable garden, we were matir a Tirchi Yisera because we said you're allowed to water the garden even by a bucket. You're allowed to water it. That was Tavkov Lamed Zayin Sif Daled. So over there we were matir, even a Tirchi Yisera. But it's a little hard to pinpoint. Maybe I'll have to do some little more research into it and see if I could give you the rules of that a little bit clearer. Okay, let's go to Sif Gimel. Sif Gimel, says the Mechaber. Mutter leba'ech bigdei pishtan biyadayim achar hakibus. You're allowed to press linen garments with your hands after they were laundered, kedei lelabnan ulerakechan, in order to brighten them. Lelabnan over here apparently does not mean to whiten them. Doesn't mean really to clean them. It means to brighten their appearance, ulerakechan, and to soften them. Apparently the problem over here is that there are certain types of garments that when you wash them and they dry, they become stiff. Now there's two problems with that. One is a comfort issue, the garment is stiff. The other thing that the Rishonim say is that somehow when the garment is stiff, it also has a dull appearance. And by taking it and squeezing it in your hands and softening it up, both the garment becomes softened and somehow the garment also gets a brighter appearance. In my mind, it could be that somehow when you smooth it out and you soften it with your hands, the smooth fabric has a nice, shinier, smoother look than when it's all crinkled and wrinkled up, it's stiff. Maybe that gives it a dull appearance. But in any case, that's what the Rishonim say. So over here, we're saying that on Chol Hamoed, you're allowed to do this. You're allowed to go ahead and squeeze the garment in order to soften it and in order to brighten it. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah here. Ais Katan Vav. Mutar l'mayich bigdei pishtan. Ayin Siman Shin Beis Sif Hey, the Shamla Inyan Shabbos, also Lasa is Kain b'bigdei pishtan. On Shabbos, you're not allowed to do this because this is a problem of the malacha of kibbutz. Va'afilu b'chaluk im iskaven kigdei lalabnoi aser. And even in a chaluk, a garment that you wear underneath, like an undershirt, if your kavana is that you want to brighten it, the assumption is that when you're doing it to something like an undershirt, you're not doing it to brighten it, you're only doing it to soften it, and therefore there isn't a kibbutz. It's not a problem of laundering. But if that's your kavana is to brighten it, also it's forbidden on Shabbos. V'hacha, but here on Chol Hamoed, mutter afilu b'miskaven lelabnoi, it's mutter to do this even if your kavana is to brighten it. V'davka kishet tzarech loy b'moed, but this is only mutter if it's being done l'tzarech hamoed. It's a malacha, but if you're doing it l'tzarech hamoed, it's mutter because it's a ma'aseh hedyot. This is not a ma'aseh yuman. Ais Katan Zayin, the Mechaber said that you're allowed to do this b'yodayim with your hands. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Lefi Masha Kosav Lekabei Bahagah, based on what we're going to see shortly in the Ramah, Hai B'yodayim Lav Dafka. These words that this is mutter to be done by hand is not specific. You're even allowed to do this. They had apparently some kind of rolling pin that they would do this with. They would have something that they would roll on the garment in order to soften it up and smooth it out. So it's not only biyadayim that it's mutter, it's even mutter, the Ramah is going to say, to do it with these tools. Let's go back to the Mechaber now. When the Mechaber says, so you're allowed to do this, you're allowed to soften up and smoothen out the beged pishtan. Aval ein oisen kishrei bate yodayim. However, you're not allowed to press a crease into the sleeves. Mipnei shehu ma'aseh uman. That's already considered a ma'aseh uman. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut neches. Kishrei hainu lekamet. This means to crease the sleeves. Shekarin krunzlin b'lashon Ashkenaz. V'dafka, says the Mishnah Berurah, kisha akmotim einon mispashtin kisha loivshan. When is it also to make the creases? That's if you make the creases so well that when you put your arm into the sleeve, the crease stays. If it's a loose crease, as soon as you put the shirt on, the crease goes away, that's not a ma'aseh uman. Ma'aseh uman is that nice sharp crease you get when you give the shirt into the dry cleaners and you put your hand in and you have that knife sharp crease over there that stays. That's a ma'aseh uman. The kevan da akmotim chazokim kolkach, when you have such a strong crease, havale ma'aseh uman va'asar afilu l'tzarech hamayid. That's a ma'aseh uman, and it's even forbidden l'tzarech hamayid. Well, according to this, says the Chavetz Chaim, asar lekame ta'anak shekarin kalner. You're not allowed to press the crease into the collar. Be'etzim hamiyuchadim lekach, using the wooden tools that were made for this. Because that stays pressed even when you put it on. So that would be a ma'aseh uman. Says the Ramah, Umutter lahachlik habegadim imaschuches kedarkan. You're allowed to smooth and flatten out a garment with the glass stone that they used to use, since this is being done l'tzarech hamayid. Says the Chavetz Chaim, hainu im even agula shel zechuches. Not exactly sure what this is referring to, but literally the words mean the round glass stone that they used to use. Umashma, the implication is, this is mutter because it's a ma'aseh hedyet. If it would be a ma'aseh uman, it would be aser. The Chayodam writes, the mutter lahachlikon b'chli kedarkon. You're allowed to smooth out a garment with a keli in the normal way. Mashpa, the implication of the Chayodam is the svirle deschuches lavdavka. The Chayodam says you're allowed to do this with a keli. He doesn't mention the glass stone. So obviously the Chayodam, when he saw the Ramah, what the Ramah said, you're allowed to press the garment with the glass stone. The Chayodam said it's not the glass stone. Whatever keli you usually use to do this, it's mutter. You could do it with other types of kalim that are used for this as well. According to this, according to this, you could use the smooth iron that tailors use in order to press a garment. Because this is all considered a ma'aseh hedyet, so it's a malacha that you're doing l'tzarech hamayid, and since it's a ma'aseh hedyet, it's mutter. So of course everybody is wondering about ironing. So there is a footnote here in the Dirshu. Dirshu footnote number 5. Ulegabe megayetz basi hamotzli bizmanenu. How about the household iron that everybody has nowadays? Das a goin Rav Nissen Karelit shemutter meikar adin legayetz poil tzarech hamayid. Rav Nissen Karelit Second Tzadik Levracha said that if you're ironing l'tzarech hamayid, meikar adin it's mutter. Bishum shechashav ma'aseh hedyet, because this is a ma'aseh hedyet. Everybody has an iron in their house and they do an ironing job. It's a ma'aseh hedyet. They're not professionals. Amnam, however, dafka liyasher es hakmotim mutter, but only to straighten out the creases. But not to put in a crease that's going to stay. Sometimes you have a pair of pants, the crease is there. It's just, the pants are a little wrinkled, so you want to iron it, fine. But how about when you have that pair of pants that you got caught in the rain, and now the crease is gone, and now you want to use the iron on a high setting with the steam, and you want to press in a crease that's going to stay? No. That's already considered a ma'aseh uman. Okay, All right, even though we didn't finish the page, I think we're going to stop over here with Sif Dalet because I'm running a little bit late. I have another share that I have to go to, so excuse me for cutting out a bit early. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. The schus of limud HaTorah should be Megan against Klal Yisrael. Rabbi Shalom should send Yeshuas and Refuas and Parnasa to all those in need. We should be Zoicha to come me'afelu la'oira, and we should be Zoicha to the Bias Gal Tzedek B'mher V'Yameinu. Amen.